Hello everyone. Welcome to today's Industry Solutions webinar. My name is Lisa Stewart. 12D's Industry Solutions webinars are designed to provide insights into overcoming challenges in an evolving industry in more effective and efficient ways. We're going to start running these webinars regularly again soon and recording them for posting on our YouTube channels with links through our website. Our previous webinars from this Industry Solutions series, as well as those from our training series and our 2021 What's Coming from 12D series, are available online if you missed those. During today's presentation, you'll be able to type your questions along the way, as shown on the screen. And we'll answer as many as possible throughout the webinar. At the end, I'll read out some of your questions to the presenter if there's time. Today's webinar, What's New in 12D Model 15, will be presented by our co-founder and managing director, Dr. Lee Gregory, who has over 40 years of experience in the civil software industry. 12D Model 15 has been our biggest release to date. Today you'll hear what was in the first release of 12D Model 15 and some of the exciting things that have been added since then in our regular sub-versions. This webinar will look at what 12D Model 15 can do for you. Over to you, Lee.
Thank you, Lisa. Obviously, there's a lot of things in 12D Model 15, and I can only go through some of them. So I've tried to cherry pick the ones that will appeal to everybody. As you know, 12D Model is just one program. So just pointed out to people who don't know so much about 12D Model. So it's only one executable and one database. So you don't have these data exchange problems because it's not going between different softwares. But it's been also modularized, so customers only need purchase what they need at the time. So it's modularized in two ways, from the number of points or vertices it can handle, which can go up from 100,000, 5 million and above, and there's a job here with 7 billion in it. But it also goes in product functionality. So we're trying to mention things from each of those areas in this seminar. But you can get the extra modules at any time with no penalty in price. We also have special options for users who are on maintenance. Now, 12D Model 15, it was first released as 15C1A, but as we release new sub-versions, which come out regularly, we add extra information to it. We have new features, bug fixes, and also improvements to existing functionality. So you need to be able to update your 12D model fairly regularly. And to help with that, we now have an auto updater. So when you're installing 12D model, there's a tick on the installer to start a 12D model updater service. Now, you have to do this initial installation as admin, but once this is done, a service is created which has admin privileges. So when new subversions are released, they can be automatically installed by you without needing admin privileges. So when we release a new subversion, you will be notified. You'll get a screen like this, and there is a settings part. It will have a default place it'll download the exe, installing exe, or you can change it to somewhere else. And you can actually tick whether or not you want the thing to be deleted straight away, the installation exe, or keep them. It will remember this when you come to do it the next time. So once you're happy there, you'll click the update now. You'll possibly get a message saying there are instances of 12D Model 15 already running. You need to shut them all down, and once you've done that, the installer will just automatically start. And you sit back and fairly quickly you'll have your new version installed. Another thing we've added in for ease of people, especially now we're using cloud licensing and things, you sometimes have to add things into your dongles.4d file. At the moment, you've had to type it in. So we now have a new file type called .12d15d, and basically it has an association with it. So if we send it to you in email, you can just open it and it'll come up with installing a dongles.4d file. So it's very much like the Nodes installer. So once you hit install, it'll just install it, and usually you want it added to the beginning, prepended to your dongles.4d file. Then you can also edit that and start moving things around. Now in 12D Model 15, we have a lot of new icons. Colorful, there's about 3,000 of them. And so you'll see some of those as I go through. Another big thing is traditionally 12D model was shipped with a fixed main menu and sub menus. So all our options were visible at once. People found that a little bit daunting, so we now have what we call themes. And each theme has its own menu structure at the top with only some of the options, and tend to have the options that you need for that theme. For those of us like myself who still want classic, there is a classic one which has everything up there like before and has the old classic icons, which are 16 by 16 icons. To transition over for people, there is a Neo which has 16 by 16 icons and still has everything on there, but they're the new one. So it's a good one to start practicing with to get used to the icons. Then we move on to the other themes. There's one called Standard, which has the original menu structure, but the icons are larger, they're 20 by 20. Then there's a design one, and you can see there's different things up the top. It's got the 2020 icons, then survey, one for water, 12D field, CAD, BIM, and for tin. So basically, you can change these and just to which one suits you at the time. But you also have those 20 by 20 ones, a choice of those icons. They can be the small ones, or you can go large up to extra large. Now, that's useful when you're on a high resolution, say a 4K monitor, or it might be when you're on a tablet where it's high resolution, so you may have to bump up the size of your icons. These can be changed at any time without leaving 12D model. So up the top there, you're able to go click on, say, the design. I'll show you the list of themes to change to. Although you mightn't see it in your theme on a menu, you can still find all options by typing into the search bar. So it'll find anything there is and bring it up for you, even if it's not visible on one of your menus. Over time, projects have become larger and the number of models, tins, function, templates has been rapidly increasing. So this is an important thing we've done for version 15 and causes a lot of time to get it all working, but it's a thing we call object tree. And that means in your model names, you can set them up with a full path, like in Windows or files, and basically you separate each of the levels by a slash. So that is a model name. And when it displays on, say, adding things, you can see the different layers to it. The good thing about this is you could say add on a whole, say, of survey, it'll add on all those models that are under it, or you can add and remove individual ones. So basically it makes it more flexible for arranging your models and tins and things. And you'll need to practice in your own organization just to see the best way to start setting it up. We found it all very, very useful. Once you start up 15, there's a new project launcher, a front screen. Down the bottom there, it's got an icon straight away, so you can get your reference manual, macro manual, YouTube, and 12D.com, and the what's new just from the front screen. So for an example, if you click on the what's new, it'll throw up our what's new PDF. I think there's in 15, there's about 2,000 pages there. So there's a lot of new things, so there's a lot more detail in there, and we keep updating that with each new version. When you click on the recent, it gives you your recent project list, which looks a bit different. So what you there see the theme for the particular project. Then there's it's actually name and location shown there. Then if you click on those three dots, you get extra project options, such as removing it, say, from this list. If you want a new project, you just click on new, excuse me, and it comes up and you pick your icon up the top of what theme you want, but you can also have the different theme size. And then you click up the top here then to go and create the new project. Now, another thing that's been in 4.14 as well was these project settings. These are the ones that are saved for a particular project, so they stay with that project and can be different for different projects, unlike environment variables, which work for every project you open. There's one here that actually is in 14, but a lot of people don't know about it. And this is auto screen layout. If that's ticked on, when you've got 12D model open and you've got a number of menus and panels and things on the screen, if this is ticked on and you then do your save and do a restart, everything there will be restored. So you don't have to go and open everything again. So I find that very useful when I'm going in and out of a project or have to leave it for a short time. Another new one though for 15 is heads up display. So there's tick in there to turn it on or off at all, but under there you also have one for setting up XYZ coordinates, and in there you can say how you want them placed, what size. You can multiply them by a factor and pre and post text and things. There's also the ones for angle, which has a whole lot of different types, distance, and also text. So once you've set that, when you're using CAD for putting down a point or a CAD line, you'll start seeing this information automatically on the screen. It disappears, it goes to the next line, and then once you stop, it goes away. And I've just set these up so it places them at different angles by different offsets. And there's, for these sorts of numbers, there's an offset from the segment. So it's easy to place them. It's not that hard once you set it up. I tend to use pixel units, so they're the same size on the screen, because you're looking at them on the screen. There's another option called Street View. Now what that does, if you've got a plan view which has got project coordinates in it, you can actually say click on a point and actually will show you the street view from that point. But there's another way of using it which is a bit more useful. It also has a 2-point option. In that case, you pick 2 points and it'll look down that direction. So it gives you direction. So in this case, we're looking down that smaller road on the T intersection, and then by going the other way, we can look down the other way of the major road. So it's very, very useful to quickly look at things. And here's an example. There's a lot more information in your street view. To speed up the initial work in 12D model, we have a number of new things called quick starts. There's one for quick start design, which allows you to easily apply a whole lot of set snippets here to build full 3D roads very quickly from just your alignments. So basically you pick one of them, pick a string, and hey presto, all your pavements and things that you've defined are in there already. There's also quick start design tools which allow you to clean up those sorts of things. So you can go in there and clean across an intersection, things like that to make it easier. But you also can turn your pavements on and off of being produced. Because sometimes you don't want all the 3D pavements, you only want the strings. So again, the choice is there. We will be having a webinar on this since it's a very, very useful tool. With survey, the survey data reduction function has a lot of tabs and things on it. And so often people get very, very confused there when they only want to use part of it. So what we've done, there's a quick start option, and it looks at a special file, and basically you tailor it to say what you want to see. So with this part, it shows very little of all that information. So there's one file for that, and it's a text file at the moment, which you just set up what you want and what it is, and it has a special name. But you can also have a number of them. You can set them up with different names, and basically if you use configuration start, it then pops them all up and actually can choose from them. So you can have different setups there for different ways that you're working with your surveying. With the water network, people are traditionally using our water string editor to lay them down. There's a new option called the quick water network. And so its graphical display looks totally different, and it's much simpler for laying down your water networks. It allows for nodes and head walls and things and bypass strings. So the main thing about it, though, it is still producing a standard 3D water network. So you can then go and use all your other options on it. When you're laying down things, though, you'll start seeing it differently. You'll see icons in there and different icons for different objects and for the pipes and things. And actually, when you're laying it down, it does some automatic stuff. So I'm laying down a string here where I've got to the first point and it just automatically made it a node. Then here, it's got a head wall because that's as far as I've gone. But when I add the next point in, the head wall turns into a node and the head wall's at the end. So it does nice little quick things like that. Also, much better things for moving things around at nodes when you get near to move everything that's there automatically. And if you're coming in with a new line and joining in, it automatically then knows when you get close enough that it's going to be a junction. So it makes all those things much, much easier. What happens though when you've got it and you actually exit it, there you are, you're back to your normal standard 3D water network, which you then could go and use quick water network or any other things on. Similarly, we have a concept stormwater design. Now this is again for putting people down with networks, and especially in the preliminary stage of projects where you don't have to be as detailed. So it creates a network with similar quick water network type commands, but a whole lot of extra ones that you need for a full design. And you can have a rational version of it, and you can see there rational is ticked. Or if you ticked on dynamic, you end up with a lot more things available that you use for dynamic. You can go between them, except in the case if you say put in a basin, which is only for dynamic, then it'll prevent you from trying to go back to rational. It's got there for you can analyze the network, get your results, all those sorts of things. And you see it looks a lot of extra information on the screen for saying what's going on. And when you exit it, again, it's a standard 3D water network. Another excellent use of it is for a review tool for existing water networks. So I've got a network here, which is traditionally you'd see it like that. But if I now open up the concept stormwater design, it will then put the icons and things on the screen. So it's much easier. You can see what's going on there more easily and pick up errors. So in this case here, that's that same design. And when I go in closer, it shows the flow paths and things. And so there's a problem here. We've got pipes going in the opposite direction. And again, the pipes are going the wrong way here. So it helps a lot just to check things out, even if you don't use concept stormwater for the design part. We've also got flooded width for dynamic analysis, and it does a full backwater calculation. And as you expect, you've got the information there for 3D, so you can use it in plans and perspective views. With our water 2D, there is now subgrid sampling. What that is, you have your normal grid cell, but with subgrid, it'll do a whole lot of extra points in there automatically. Basically, they'll give you much better results. Another thing there is now is there's quad tree. With quad tree, where you've got cells here, they're large, you can select an area where you can much finer. So that makes processing a lot bigger because you don't have to have fine ones through the whole project. And you can combine quad tree and then subgrid sampling. And so they'll give you much better results and probably a lot faster. We also have a front end for music, which is the model for urban stormwater improvement conceptualization. That's a mouthful. And again, with that one, it comes up with the nice looking panel. And for music, you're really laying down links and nodes. So you've got a whole lot of source nodes you can choose from that they have. You've got your various treatment nodes and other types of nodes. And then you have your links. So what you do is get a graphical thing on the screen of what you're doing, and you can analyze it and get your results as well. There's so many other things in there, but a few other little things is there's the initial continuing loss method with ILSACs. There's a create and edit a water main, road catchment edit creator, an inlet capacity curve creator. There's a whole lot of extra things for water plots. So again, we'll have some videos on these things. And also there's a lot in that what's new document. For design, now again, we'll have to show you this separately, but we have added so it uses less processing storage space required, so it doesn't fill up your disk on the temp area. There's been a whole lot of MTF speed ups over time, a lot of MTF additions and snippet additions. And again, we'll have to go through it with a webinar. But on the super alignment, there is this new parts editor. The old ones, things are still there, but there's all a new one that you can play around that makes it a bit easier to do things. So there's all sorts of things you can do down the side with icons rather than have to pick the text. Surveying, again, there's going to be numerous things and improvements to things like just a straight SDR, your least squares, general conformance with an enhanced pavement conformance that now can do cross sections work in it as well. Heaps of those things. And in 12D field, again, huge number of things which we'll do in a webinar. One thing though, on your control bar, now all the images are the same no matter what instrument you're using. So you don't have to think of different icons for different instruments. We are supporting things like a smart pole, but there's also 390 pages of new documentation. So you can now go in there and there's lots of documentation for you on all the options inside 12D field. Another little thing that has gone in recently is a thing called tri-mesh from vertical data. We've had a lot of time when people have vertical data and they want to make a tri-mesh out of it. So what this option does is allow to do you for it. It's say when you scan a wall or something like that, and it basically will look at it and hopefully produce a nice little tri-mesh for you. So I know people have been trying to do that sort of thing, so it should make it much easier. It can't handle overhangs, but when it's normal, it doesn't have to be straight vertical. It could go in and out a bit. You'll get a nice tri-mesh from it. Now, we all keep hearing about digital engineering and BIM, and the open standard for that everyone should be using, and what the government's been saying, is the IFC format. We've been reading and writing IFC from about 2007, but it has been improved, and there's been nothing in infrastructure really until now, what's coming out by the end of the year, IFC 4x3. It's going through ISO at the moment, and so it should be standardized and be a worldwide standard, hopefully by Christmas time. So but we can read various IFC files, the 2x3, 4, and 4x3, although 4x3 is still evolving, so it's not quite standardized yet. And there's a whole lot of information on the front to control how we read the IFC data in. So you can do all sorts of things there, put into different models, entity models, split it by the presentation layer as models, and so on. And we've read in heaps of IFC files over time from lots of different products. But the important thing that is coming, especially with IFC 4x3, is the right infrastructure IFC file. So it can write 2x3 and 4, but it'll be the 4x3 one that will become important from, say, Christmas or New Year onwards. It supports writing of project attributes, object attributes, attributes as an IFC entity. It makes an IFC entity. For that is, if you know something's going to be an IFC pavement, you can put that as an attribute. So when it goes out, instead of being a proxy element, it'll say IFC pavement or IFC wall and so on. Up until 4x3, there's been very little for infrastructure, but there'll be a lot more things you can do, so you don't have to use so many proxy elements. And there's also, you can feed through the various parameters that an entity can have. It also can support writing superstrings, so you can write it as strings, or if something can't read strings, you can put them out still like tiny pipes like before. You can have string attributes, vertex attributes, and segment attributes. So basically, you can write out your survey data, superstrings, out into an IFC format and read it back in and get your same superstring setup. With extrusions, well, they can go to swept paths, or if things can't use swept paths, you can put them out as tri-meshes. We've often have to put lots of data out as tri-meshes because virtually every package that can read IFC can read tri-meshes. So basically, if all else fails, put your data out as tri-meshes. What also we support in there is alignments. IFC 4x3 has an alignment. It also has tins, and it also has water networks, so they're all connected properly. So all these things you'll be able to now, instead of having to do strange things in your networks or with your data, you'll be able to put it right out to IFC. There's also georeferencing. And this is super important because at the moment when you get an IFCF file, you have no idea what the data in it is. So what you can do with IFC 4x3, you can actually set up if you're what you expect the final data to be in. You can give your horizontal or geodetic datum, your vertical datum, its map projection, the map zone. So this will let the person know exactly what the data is going to be when they read the file in. And it's recorded in the IFC file rather than just on a bit of paper. There's a couple of ways of doing things though. If you're just doing a local placement, that's for when, hey, I have no idea about what the coordinates are or whatever. So all that stuff is ignored. So it might be just in some weird local coordinate system. That does nothing, but just goes out, say it would now. But you can translate it. And so you can have a point that you're translating about, because some systems just can't handle large coordinates. As we all know, infrastructure has nothing but large coordinates and large distances, but some systems can't handle them. There's a local to map coordinates. What this is when you've got something in local coordinates from, say, an architect, if you know the helmet to put it in 2D helmet to get it into map coordinates and maybe a delta Z, you can set up that information. So you can set up the translation and the rotation and also a scaling. Normally you just have the same XY scaling and or factor, I should say. So that is so it can take your local data in the file, and when it applies this transformation inside that file, when it's read in, you'll get it in map coordinates, and it'll know exactly what all those things were. The final one is there when you've also got map units already and you just want to do something like, sometimes you've got truncated map coordinates where you've knocked off the things, but so you can actually do a translation to put it into full map coordinates. But you've got all information in there of what the projections and things are. Or if your data is already in projection coordinates, you would use a map coordinate where the translation is 0, 0, 0, but it will then have all this information about your projections and data in there for them so they know what the data is. Producing Bim data, people think it's sort of hard, but they don't realize that if you've got strings in attributes, you can often create Bim objects with some of our routines quite easily. So in this case, this is a customer who's picked up the survey completely in the field. The data has been attributed in a way that they know what it is. They've looked at the attributes and audited and everything's validated. So then they run a routine on it that recognizes what those attributes are for. And these two images have been totally out of that data with nothing else done. So it's basically everything in there has come through as 3D. So if you do set up your survey data or your data, you might just have ordinary data, strings and things, and put the right attributes on it. You can produce 3D BIM very, very quickly. The other problem though is a lot of people get BIM data and surveyors have to set it out, and there's nothing in there that they can use. The only things they can use are strings and points. So we do have options to take something like here, a pavement, and when you run it, it tries to find the strings that you may find useful for setting out. We have a number of these routines and we keep fixing them. One thing you'll notice, they put the line marking out as a lovely little 3D thing. Totally useless for setting out, but now you know that you can have strings in IFC. You could write out the string for the line marking as well. So you can have the pretty, but you can have the thing that we use for actually setting out the line marking. And so it's things like here, when you've got piles and things like that you might often just want the center of it. And beams, again, you might want all the edges details. So it depends what it is, and we keep adding to that to get BIM data to sensible data for setting out. Of course, if you're using 12D fields, you can set out most of the data as it is. But if you can't, then you can use these processes on it. And then another very important tool for working with attributes, because anything you're doing with BIM now and GIS, it's attributes, attributes, attributes. And this is MetaConnects. And this allows you to work with lots of attributes in lots of different ways. We have our other attribute manipulator, but that's it on steroids. So we can create and edit attributes. There's actually 90 calculation routines to find information out. So it might be a 2D length of a string, a 3D length of a string. It might be the depth from a tin, all sorts of things. And you can do calculations between these things. And we're adding to these routines at all times. It also, you can say, label all these things and using our plan labeling option, or go out to your BIM or your GIS. So this is the thing you'll use more and more. Another thing though it does, it can validate the attributes as well. So once you can set one up so it knows to check and go and validate all your attributes, which can be in a deep attribute tree. They don't just have one level. And IFC has attribute trees, not just one level of attributes. And in this case, it's run and it's found there's an error, tells you it's outside the range, and more importantly, puts a log line in here. So if you click on that, that will take you straight to the object in 12D model so that you can go and look at what the problem is. MetaConnects is being used everywhere, but in particular, it's been useful for ADAC, which has lots of attributes. For Transport for New South Wales Digital Engineering, EXDS have a system that works beautifully on that. Again, for the Transport for New South Wales RAM system, again, EXDS can help you with all those problems. ASPEC, GIS, and things like in New Zealand, there's a 3 water code of practice standard, and it's being used there to get all the attributes for that. And so you can automatically then produce plots and things even for all those attributes. Now, GIS has been totally rewritten. Unfortunately, libraries we were using stopped working. So we've actually redone it all ourselves to make sure we've got more control. So basically, there's a whole lot of new options there for different data services, because some of them, often they don't work the same way. So there's one, the simplest one there is for reading web map service data. That's what always been around for a long while. This is basically getting rasters. So you give it a rectangle and it will read in a part of a online raster inside that rectangle. That one's been there, sort of thing's been around for a while. But it's been superseded by where in the on the GIS side, or the web server side, it's got a whole lot of tiles of rasters. And in this case, you still give it a rectangle, and it then goes and grabs that rectangle out of all those tiles. So it's when you've got much huger raster data sets in your map server. You then have things for reading in what we call feature services, and that brings in points, polylines, and polygons with attributes. There's another thing called a REST, which is the Representational State Transfer Protocol. If the system supports that protocol, it's going to become very, very standardized now. And again, that's another way of bringing in your feature service data. And we have written one there especially for lints, because there's a whole lot of special things with their service. And if we find other ones that need special things, we'll start adding them in. One thing about these though, all these options, if you're on maintenance, they're now going to be provided free as part of the base product. So as long as you're on maintenance, these new GIS options will be available for you. Point clouds. People keep getting more and more point clouds from drones, scanners, fixed and mobiles. The one up here has got 7 billion points in it. They're always difficult to work with, and we keep working on it and start building up special techniques. If you've got LAS data, you often have that has categories in it. That allows you to turn data on and off. So you usually can just then isolate your ground. We have thinning routines in there, we have grid tins. An interesting one is if you've got 2D strings, you actually can drape them against a point cloud. So especially when you've got a point cloud to the ground, so you can put the 3D data on those strings. So it's a very useful thing. You can use for all sorts of things then for actually looking at point cloud, even then to get the strings to compare with the design. We have levels of display, so as you zoom in and out, you get less and more data. And there's also a point cloud cache to make things run much faster. There's a whole lot of other things in point clouds as well, and we will do a webinar on that. There's a whole lot of other things, like there's a whole new projections file, which has its own editor, which allows you to put a lot more information in for what you used to say map info or Esri or other different standards or IFC. A masonry, block wall, retaining wall, conduit banks, cut and fill volumes before tins. That's a fantastic one. You can have large tins and it'll get you the cut and fill volumes, grid volumes. There's a text spelling checker, a KML reader and writer, an option to tabulate names.4d file. That's just a little thing, but people often want to tabulate it, so it's much easier. There's rail aggression, and we're doing a lot of work on the track options, doing additions, and the rewrite is underway, and that should be available probably in the new year. Things like the attribute editor, it's been totally rewritten. So it often had some problems with it and may crash on you, but that's totally been rewritten and beefed up quite a bit. And even the attribute manipulator has numerous extra things you can do with it, because the multi-page plots, MPS, again, just numerous additions. And we'll definitely have something on the multi-MPS and the attribute manipulator in some of our webinars. The automation, the things people automated with 12D is the computators with the alignment, just super alignment, just make it so easy. It's basically a whole lot of parameters in there as you move things around, and we keep adding to that. With snippets, again, numerous additions and chains, which is the first thing people do use for a lot of automation. But then there's the macro programming language. All these things have had extra things done, and we will give more information about them. But with the macro language, we've actually added between 14 and 15, 4,000 new macro calls and functions. There's things called containers and maps, which I don't know how to use, but they speed things up tremendously and make the coding much easier. So we'll try and get some examples for you. You can drag and drop 40M files and it'll actually compile it and then say run it, or just drag and drop 40O files and they'll run it. And there's actually codes you can put into your macro. So when 12D model shuts down, your macro will also shut down. So you don't have to run that kill program. So we're working through all our options on how and doing that, and we'll post on the macro section of the 12D model forum on how to do that. Now this one is actually a very sad thing for us. Our good friend Mad Monk, who'd worked for us in the UK and has worked around Australia, passed away over and just after the COVID period. So it was very sad, and it's just been over a year or more now since Matt passed away. But Matt and Core Spatial, where Matt was working, created a large number of macros that a lot of our users were using. And in a tribute to Matt, Dave Mayers from Core Spatial and Sam Check have been working through a whole number of them at their own expense to make them usable by a more general public. They're going to make all the source code available to the 12D model users. So what will be done? The tribute to Matt will be setting up a special section on the 12D model forum, and bit by bit we'll be adding the various macros that they've done to it. So you'll see hopefully a lot more macros that you'll be able to use. We only put the source code up there. We only allow source code because you could do anything with 4DO. So it'll be there so you can take the source code and you can start using it and modifying it to your heart's content. The Pavement Manager has been totally rewritten really for version 15, so it does a lot more things than it did before and did a lot in version 14. And it's used everywhere, all civil disciplines for design, tendering, estimation, and construction. Because actually what you can do is produce 3D pavements with attributes when you only got things like string data. So that's its thing. Or you might be working on design, you want to do more things to it later. Because of course the MTF can create all this automatically, but often you don't have that information. It has a whole lot of profiles which you can customize yourself and put them in there, and then you apply them to the different things. It also has inner and outer offsets, edge slopes and curve depths and things for your curves and verges. And you can have these multiple pavement types. So it's now got heaps and heaps of extra things in it, but there's a new version 15 snippet library which is used with the pavement profiles. And you can actually pick things from the library yourself, from the snippet library. And you can use multiple snippets to create the detailed pavement arrangements. So it's certainly much more powerful, and it was very powerful before. One thing also that you can add customized attributes to each layer, so enhancing all that data for going out to a BIM export. You can use things like meta connects and setting that sort of the attributes up. It also can work with pavement from tins to then use to create the pavements based on tin color, which is a very easy way of doing it when you've got complicated pavements, but you know the little areas that it's working in. And so you can use the tin color and edge treatments for the curves and matters. GNS Vector Report, GVR. This is a new one that's only just been released, I think in C1K. And it is mainly for cadastral surveyors. It's been specially organised by our friends at 12DNZ. It's for the rapid calculation for the analysis and averaging of GNS vector observations, which they do all this sort of thing in New Zealand. So it allows you to pick the things you want to accumulate, which ones you want to use to get your final vector. It's got graphical display and attributing. So it's got the various things here. You can show the accuracy and things and all of the information about each one, so you can decide what you're going to use. There's a table analysis and sorting the values and other things there for, again, to look at the data. And then there's reports for auditing and for approval processes. So when you have to really say what you're doing to get your GNSS vector, what things you use it to get your final vector, this is the thing for you. It also has, using the MPS, you've got the smart labeling and plotting, so you can generate a plot like that straight out of 12D model with no problems. There definitely will be a webinar on GVR. It's a very, very powerful system. 12D View. There is a 12D View for 15. Again, it's free, and it can read in 12D model 15 projects. It won't use the older ones because they need to be migrated. It can't save data, but it can read in data from a lot of sources. So you can see the list now of all the different things it can read data from. So you can read that data into an existing project, or there's an option on there to create a new temporary model. So you get the temporary model, then you can say read data into it. So you can either use an existing project and do things with it, or you can create an empty model and read data in to check it out. So just like 12D model, it's got plan, section, perspective views, profiling, dynamic profiling, things, inquiry options, measure options. a thing I'll mention shortly called Markup, and it also has Street View as part of 12D View. With the authorization, it can use your existing 12D Model 15 authorization. You can get a 12D View 15 authorization, or it can actually run when it's unregistered. So there's no matter what you do, you should be able to run 12D View anywhere. To get it, you go to our 12D Model Forum, and there's a download for it, or on www.12d.com, there's a download for 12D View, or the latest versions of it. Now this one here is probably our final one that's only in the very last version we've put out. It's called Markup and Review. So I'll just go through this in a bit of detail because people have been asking for things like this for a while. So for doing digitally markup and reviewing in 12D model and staying in 12D model. So you can go through the various process and review gates for progress, completed, verified, and then revision for plotting. And you can start tracks and store that markup review history for other uses. And it's all displayed in a 12D model plan and perspective views. So you don't have to have some other sort of file to worry about. So you've got your markup to go through those, but you also have reviews and various gateways. So when you get the markup toolbar up, it just looks like this with the various things. These settings are just to set up what you want, what views and things or model you're putting the data into, colors, and so on. And then you start with your markups themselves. There's a whole lot of display tools you're probably still used to from marking up. You can change the colors and things. That's just what they are on the toolbar. And excuse me, going through the markup gateways, you've got one to regress, going back one gateway, but you've got hold, which says puts it into hold state. There's no one which changes color to say it's in progress. It also automatically stores the unit, the name, the date, and the status it was assigned. There's a complete progress. Again, change it to green. Again, it stores the information. There's a verification stage as well. And basically, there's the revision. We can add a revision ID, and it automatically stores that using the name and the revision ID with it. And it creates a plot model of this data when it's there, so you can store it in your project. With the review tab, again, it follows that same sort of gateway, and they look sort of a bit similar. But what happens, you can regress as well. But when you're actually reviewing, it'll color the thing there, but also put information in the top right-hand corner about who was reviewing, comments, and things like that. You then have the progress stage. Again, this will then change color. It'll leave the original comment there for the review, but also show the in progress. That's in progress. There's actually a completed stage. And in this case, it's changes the color again, but puts it down the left-hand corner. And then finally, you've got your verified stage. So you've got the 4 stages there, which is always there, and it's automatically updated with information. Publishing allows you to add out information, share it between projects, and you can write it out so it can go into between 12D models, or you can actually read it into 12D View. You can pick up the project with 12D View, and you can use markup in 12D View, but you also can pass the information around. So basically, it's stored in a file outside of the 12D model project so that people can get access to it. You can export various bits of data and choose what type of things you want to export. So you can see everything or just things are in progress and so on. There's a couple of reports we're adding in probably over the Christmas period as a status table and a report. So the information when you're doing it will look like this in a plan view, and also a lot of the information can go into a perspective view. So you don't have to leave 12D model, and anyone who picks it up in 12D view or 12D model can see that information, add comments to it, and then pass it back to you. So basically, markup is available for all users on maintenance. As long as you're on maintenance, it's there. There's no extra charge for it. It runs in both 12D model and 12D view, and also will work with 12D synergy. And we'll have a webinar on Markup to show you how that all works and how it fits together. We've only just released this, so I imagine there'll be lots of improvements and other things over the coming months as you start trying it, and just come back to us with what you would like. That's a quick look at some of the things, and one of the questions though is, what will this cost us? Well, for users on maintenance, there is no cost to upgrade to 12D Model 15. So basically, you'll just get the new version and start installing it and using it. If you buy new licenses and have to add new things in, remember, we've still had no change in prices since we first released in 1991. So basically, what you pay with paying then, the price is exactly the same, even though there's a huge additional functionality in the various modules. We still have our perpetual licenses, and most people have. We also have subscription if you want that route, and we still have our rental ones. So we haven't changed there, and we're not forcing you. You can keep your perpetuals and network licenses. We're not forcing you to subscription only or name users, which was a great way, subscription and name users, they're getting more money out of our customers. But shortly I'll show you how you can actually win money from us. So for once it's in reversed. With training, our authorised training centres, Civil and Surveying Institute, EXDS and 12DNZ, they've been running obviously for years instructor-led face-to-face training, but since pandemic we've been doing a lot of instructor-led online training. But now we've also got the self-paced online training, or SPOT for short. This is where there are videos and tests and things online for you, so you work through it at your own pace. So it's all online, you play the things, you answer the quizzes, and you're training yourself. So what we're using this for SPOT, you make your own login to it. You actually go and log in it, then you can keep going back there in the future. And actually, when you've gone in and for any paid courses you've paid for, SPOT courses, or there's free ones, like there's a number of getting started courses up there. And also when you do go in there, the 12D model tech forum videos are all in there as well. It keeps track of what you've done, where you're up to, and things like that inside this inside SPOT. People have been asking about cloud licensing since people were using it in COVID-19. And we've been using it ever since for our online training, but we now have a hosted 12D cloud licensing service available for 12D Model 15. So this is where we can host your network dongles for you, rather than you having them on your hardware. This is where you can get money from us. Basically, our innovation awards are on again, and on our you can find the form and the information about them on our website. And this is winners from last time, our last one we had in physically. We have categories and cash, training, prizes and trophies. The main categories are design, and the prizes are worth $4,000. We've got BIM and visualization, survey and construction, 12D water, customization of macros, and that's going to be the Map Monk Award, a banishing draft and demon. This is for those to show how they can get a lot of data out of your 3D models without needing touch-up drafting. And also 12D synergy. And there's an overall prize of winner worth $7,000. So you can enter into any of those categories, and there's many different categories with as many entries as you like. There's also highly commended prizes and a certificate for each of those categories. Plus, there's a certificate and a full package for the next 12D model tech forum and $300 worth of SPOT for small, medium, large, and government businesses. So even if you're a small thing, you can go for that one. But look, even small companies do fantastic things. So put them in the categories, as many different categories as you like. And we also now have a special student section that's just going up now. So for the top entry from students who've been using 12D model in their courses, so we'll pick one of those, we'll get a certificate, a full package to the next tech forum, so that's worth over $1,000, and $500 worth of SPOT training. So we'll only have to put that information up there shortly. So anyone who's a student can now look for it in probably in the next couple of weeks. You can start applying for that. Information is on our website, www.12d.com. Yes, you can enter as a team or individually, that doesn't matter. You just got to figure out how you can split the money or the prizes when it's a team. And it's probably about $43,000 now or more of prizes. The closing date is 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 30th of April 2024. We'll actually be handing out the awards at our special 12D Tech Forum 2024. It's actually back again in person. Unfortunately, 6 years ago was our last one, and we had to have only online in between. We did have one scheduled, and then everything was shut down again, so we had to do it online. But it is now back, and it's back in Brisbane Council again, Convention Centre. And here's one from our last one. We have a lot of people there. Aren't they a lovely bunch? There'll be talks there from industry on 12D model and 12D synergy. There's birds of a feather training sessions. That's where we go out into separate things for half of our time, just the designers, the surveyors, so you can water and synergy people, so you can ask special technical talks in there. There's technical talks on 12D synergy. There's a welcome event, which is drinks on the Sunday night and the conference dinner on the Monday night. And then there's the innovation awards will be presented at there, and the exhibition area where we often have stands for survey manufacturers and other interested parties that you can go talk to at lunch and morning toilet times. So when is it? It's 28th, 29th, and 30th of July, again in the Brisbane Convention Centre. And you just go to our website, as you can see there, to register, and we do have credit card payments available for you. But be careful. We have only got 300 places left because we were going to a much bigger one, which took 700 people the last forum, but that was not available to us now. So we're back to where we were last time, and already it's booking out. So do not delay. Get in there as soon as possible to book your seat. So I've been blabbing away at you for quite a while there. There's a heap more things in 12D Model 15. I've just shown you some of the things, and have a look at that, what's new in 12D Model 15, and we'll start rolling out webinars on the features for you. So I'll now try to answer any questions that you have submitted. Over to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Lee. We did have quite a few questions through. I'll just read out a couple of these for now, and we might get back to some others after we finish here. So we had one from Mark in Sydney saying, do we need to reinstall 12D Model to get the auto update?
Yes, you'll have to install it, or if the person, when they've installed it already, may have ticked that auto updater on. But if they hadn't, you just need to install it again and tick the auto updater, and you'll be right from then on. It's now in these later versions, it's actually on by default. So hopefully it'll happen for you.
Great. And there was another one from Mark in Melbourne. Are there improvements for BIM to tin as well as the BIM to string stuff that you showed? Will there be anything on that?
There's some various things for getting, probably depends what you mean, because the problem with BIM, it's 3D and a tin is only sort of like a 2D surface. So I'll probably have to get back to you to find out what you mean there. But certainly in the Pavement Manager, it then produces a tin at the bottom of the thing. But no, we'll probably have to find out exactly what you mean there. Sorry about that, Mark.
That's fine. I'll send through the questions and people's details after we finish here today. So the recording of today's webinar will be available in coming days through the webinars page on our website. And yeah, as I say, I'll email that out to everyone who's registered as well. And we'll pop it up on our 12D Model YouTube channel. And keep an eye on our emails and social media for details of future webinars. Well, I think we might have actually had another question just coming in. I'll just have a look at this.
I'll do a little tap dance here while we're just checking.
And
I think, look, I saw it come up there. I'm not certain
yes.
who it was, but yes, have you got it there?
No, I can't see it at the moment. So yeah, my screen's done a funny thing. If you've got it, then you can read it out. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah, the question was, when on earth did IFC basically, that was the beginning of the question, support strings? And is it only in IFC 4x3? Actually, strings have been supported in IFC, as I think I mentioned, since IFC 2, which is about 20 years ago. But unfortunately, a lot of the BIM software people decided there was an implementers agreement that said we won't show anything that's not a solid, has a volume. But they have been there. They're under, of all strange places, IFC annotation, but there's a point, polyline, and so on. And now in IFC 4x3, people definitely have to be able to do things because there's now an alignment. An alignment has no volume. So people are going to have to update their software quite a bit. But we've also taken advantage of it, and so we can put out all our super strings. So it has been there, but most systems wouldn't show it, unfortunately. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. And we've had a couple of requests for specific webinar topics coming through too. So we'll definitely be harassing other presenters to get onto those very soon. So thank you to people who've sent through those suggestions as well.
Thank you everyone for attending. I hope you enjoy 12D Model 15, and we certainly welcome any feedback.
Very much so. Thanks. That concludes our presentation for today, and we hope to see you all at some future webinars as well.